Hello, and welcome to Now 7. And it's now 1986. Let's go back in the time machine. In fact, it feels just like 1986. It's a very, very strange mood all around the world at the moment. And let's just cast our minds back to what happened in the very beginning of 1986 in the period covered by this compilation. It was the Chernobyl disaster, and obviously the radiation sickness that basically travelled halfway around the world. We were living in fear, so it's funny how things, what goes around comes around. Obviously the Cold War was coming to the very end of its time. There was about 3 years left. There's a really, really good movie which I was thinking of the other day. It's a cartoon and it's called When the Wind Blows by Raymond Briggs, and it's all about nuclear war, and they're basically this old couple who have to hunker down in their sort of makeshift shelter, and it just reminded me of it with what's going on at the moment. So wherever you are, stay safe all across the planet. If you do have to stay inside to bunker, then hopefully these videos give you something entertaining to keep your spirits up. And as per 1986, dark times all around. Pop music was a sort of shining light at its best. This song, Sledgehammer, this is a great song, all-time classic video. Peter Gabriel, one of the real influential people in music over the last few years, created Wham, obviously started his career with Genesis. Incredibly innovative video and song making. This manages to combine being really commercial, really catchy, with really just great sophisticated musicianship. It's funky without necessarily being funk. It's just really good, intelligent pop. That really, you'd like it if you're a kid. You'd like it if you were 70. It's all budding songwriters, musicians. Just study and analyse and get into Peter Gabriel, because you'll get so much from it. It really is one of the all-time greats, and this is one of his best songs and best videos. So what an amazing way to start Now 7 in this otherwise depressing year. Something actually genuinely uplifting. Okay, so where do we go from here then? Well, we go to UB40 with Sing Our Own Song. This is another original of theirs, not one of their covers. So, as you can see from all their Now albums, they've been on almost all of them, alternating between covers and originals. To be fair, this one was more political. It was their first kind of political song for a long time. Musically, I don't think it's one of its best, but it was nice to have UB40 going back to a bit more kind of passion in the political sense. Number 3, here's one that I listened to the other day. I hadn't heard it for ages. Real one-hit wonder, real 80s thing. It's Sly Fox, Let's Go All the Way. It's more production than a song, that, because now we're getting into the second half of the 80s, really, and in terms of paradigms, it's interesting to see how some of the soul stuff that's been bubbling under is now sort of going mainstream in a bigger way. And I guess it's sort of really it's really the second half of the 80s now. Sly Fox as a song, Let's Go All the Way, is not all that, but the production is very sort of very techno, very heavy and electronic. And if it was me, I would have put the next song straight after it, but the sequencers have put this in a way. They've put number 4, Lessons in Love, Level 42, which is one of their biggest songs, one of their most commercial songs. It's a good song, very good song. Not really a great deal to say about it. I think it's pretty much stood the test of time. For a song I would have put after Let's Go All the Way, they've actually put number 5. I would have put Opportunities immediately after it, because that's similar. It's the Pet Shop Boys' first appearance on a Now album, and one of their best songs, I think. It's almost proto-industrial, and it's very Thatcherite, or again, is it taking a piss? Opportunities, let's make lots of money. That's number 5, and yeah, that's one of their best. Okay, number 6, I'm going to stick this one on, I think, because it's a really good song. This is Pete Wiley and Sinful. Now, Pete Wiley had a few hits under various combinations of the name Wah, W-A-H. There was The Story of the Blues, then a few years later he did under the name The Mighty Wah, a song called Come Back, which was a really good song. And then a few years later after that, Sinful. And yeah, it was a moderately big hit. Still in that kind of post-punk idiom, but as the 80s were turning, you know, you could see the kind of bridge of, well, I guess post-punk into the origins of what would then become 90s indie and even Britpop. So we're still a few years away from that yet. But Sinful is, yeah, it's really, thinking back on it now, yeah, this is the beginning of something that's no longer post-punk and is now proto-indie. It's a very subtle distinction. And I wouldn't necessarily say this song spearheaded it, but I think it's a good example of it. It's a good example of a new paradigm coming in. So, good song, this. Followed up by a very strange one, Camouflage by Stan Ridgway. Now, he was the singer in Wall of Voodoo, who are a really good band, did a really good version of Ring of Fire. Camouflage is, it's seen as very quirky. It kind of seems jokey, but it's not really. It's a ghost story. It's a ghost story set in Nam, and so it's followed up from the 19 kind of revival of the Vietnam War in terms of culture. And it's a story song. It feels a bit out of date in a way, but then Stan Ridgway was always a bit of a one-off. I really recommend Wall of Voodoo. Number 8, okay, The Art of Noise and Max Headroom, Paranoia. I love Close to the Edit. I think it's one of the most groundbreaking tracks of all time. I may even do a video on it. But this is wank, really. It's just sort of it's at the point where electronic music and sort of stuff that's really technically impressive just crosses over into being too clever and too unfunky. It's when it stops being about being able to dance to it, and it's I don't know. I just find it really gimmicky, and I suppose it does give you an idea of where sort of mainstream 80s culture in terms of the technological aspects was at. Particularly with Max Headroom and some of the new sort of TV effects, video, a manipulation of video. So in that respect, it's kind of bridging a gap towards the internet. But I think you'd have to say it's very primitive and ropey now. Okay, if you think that's bad. Number 9, The Lady in Red, Christa Berg. Is it as bad as all that? I mean, it's certainly famous. Most of you have probably heard of it, but not for the right reasons. I think the thing that really gets me about this song is that Lady in Red was apparently his wife, and all the time he was singing this, he was having an affair with the nanny. And maybe it's that thing about kind of what's the word? I forgot the word. Compensation. That's it. You know, to make up for the sort of shadows in his own subconscious. I remember Chris de Burgh being very arrogant and always very chippy about how famous and successful he was. But he's one of those people that's ridiculously famous, yet you never meet anyone who likes him. Well, I say he's ridiculously famous. Maybe he was vaguely famous in the 80s. He's not really now. You'll still hear it at a wedding, maybe. Number 10, Absolute Beginners, David Bowie. Opinions may be a bit divided amongst Bowie fans regarding this, because obviously it's not exactly Ashes to Ashes, but it's a big love song, and it's very majestic, and it kind of glides through the night. I like it. I really like it. And it was the theme song to a movie that unleashed Patsy Kensit on the world. Number 11, Genesis, back again with Invisible Touch. Let's do a bit of that on, because I do like me analysing Genesis songs, as you know, the American Psycho thing. Yeah, this was Genesis basically kind of modernising themselves a bit for the late 80s. First of a run of a fair few hits they had after a break. Phil Collins combining this with his solo career. It's just what it is, really. I like it. Bit of a guilty pleasure, maybe. This is followed by All the Things She Said, Simple Minds, from the career highlight of Don't You Forget About Me. They're still big, their songs are still doing well, but they're really starting to get a bit turgid. All the Things She Said is okay, it's adequate, but it's definitely a case of diminishing returns, I think, there. And that's followed by Happy Hour by the House Martins. Now, again, we're really talking indie. Maybe this is the first out-and-out new wave indie song. Well, I say new wave, I don't mean old new wave. I mean new wave of new wave. Late 80s, even early 90s. House Martins and Happy Hour. Also, highly relevant, maybe, was the first ever song on an Now album with Norman Cook, albeit not Fatboy Slim. But here he is, his introduction into having hit records on bass. Happy Hour, it's another one of those songs that's jangly, but it's also got a kind of cynical undertone to it. So in that respect, it's kind of a bit reminiscent of the Smiths. Followed by Big Country, yet again, about their fifth song on one of these albums, Look Away. Just like all the other Big Country songs. It's okay, it's well done, but it's really not played anymore. No one ever really listens to Big Country. Number 15, here's one that you might have heard. Furniture, Brilliant Mind. It's another one that's very much in this new wave of indie that's coming along now. And it almost reminds you of proto-pulp in a way. It's got that kind of thing going on. It's got some good weird sort of surf guitars. And it's a really good song. It's pretty timeless. Doesn't really sound old at all. Brilliant Mind by Furniture. That's followed by Call of the World by Midge, which is mediocre at best. Midge was never all that without Ultravox. And, I mean, I like him. He seems like a really good guy, but his music just seems a bit kind of vapid. Right, side 2 then. We start with Wham and The Edge of Heaven. And actually, this was the last ever Wham single. This was their farewell single. And it's not bad. For a Wham song, this is one of the better ones. It's maybe a bit more rocky, a bit less funk-based. Still a Motown thing. I think it's a good way to end Wham. I'm never going to be a huge Wham fan. I'm sorry about that. I do hope you don't mind. But I think The Edge of Heaven, it's obviously George Michael will go on to solo stuff very shortly. But The Edge of Heaven was a good old farewell. Number 18, my favourite waste of time, Owen Paul. Never really liked this one, to be honest. It was a one-hit wonder. It was a big hit. It's kind of catchy, but it's just over-commercial, really. Right, now we come on to one which I still like. Probably still a guilty pleasure. A very, very 80s, mid-80s band. Do you remember Amazulu? I could almost say they were too good to be forgotten. Now, this was an old 70s song. Wasn't the Lowlights, was it? I think it might have been, who did some great songs. And it's a kind of scarry affair. Very commercial. Almost kind of Bananarama, Bell Starsy. It's... I wouldn't even call it reggae, even though she looks quite Rasta looking at her. Musically, it's pop, really. But it's reggae inflected or ska inflected. What I really like about this song is the actual song. It's great chords, bit fairgroundy, but I kind of like that. This song would probably sound best on a waltzer in a fairground somewhere in London, with the music kind of making you feel seasick. In that context, this would be amazing. Yeah, this is great. This is great. But it is a cover. So I'm loving this. Amazulu, Too Good to Be Forgotten. Could it be the best song so far on here? Possibly. Right, we follow this one up with Spirit in the Sky, Doctor and Medics. Another cover, another song that was very big in the 80s, big wedding disco song. I don't really want to criticise it. It knows it's naff. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's a kind of drinking song. It's a number one, really. Designed to be a number one almost. And I think they came to our uni and did a gig there. I think they might have had a couple of minor hits, but really you associate them with that one song. Right, followed up with Bananarama. Again, like on side one, the sequencing's a bit out of kilter here. They really should have put Bananarama after Amazulu, and they should have put Doctor and the Medics after Owen Paul. It's all a bit come hither, come thither. Venus, Bananarama. This was one of Stock Aitken and Waterman's first big productions. I think it might even be the first on a Now. And it's probably one of their better ones, because as the series goes on, you'll see that they again started to go downhill. It's a cover, so we've had 3 70s covers in a row, and it's okay, it's fun, it's well known. I think people still know it, probably still like it. Right, that's followed by Bucks Fizz with New Beginning. Now, early 80s Eurovision winner. They hadn't really appeared on any Now albums or anything. They'd been a bit quiet. They had a horrendous coach crash in I think it was 1984, and this was literally a new beginning for them. I think Jay, one of the girls, had left. New girl came in, and it's not really all that, the song. It's very kind of African sounding in a kind of fairly crass way. I kind of like the positivity of it, and you know, obviously after what happened to them, it was good to see them back on a human level. But musically, there's only one Bucks Fizz song, and that's "A Land of Make Believe." Possibly making your mind up if you're in the mood and you're at a wedding. Now, this one, Aha, and this is their first appearance on a Now album after 2 huge hits, brilliant songs, "Take on Me" and "The Sun Always Shines on TV." Neither of them made it onto a Now album, but this one did, "Hunting High and Low." As it was fairly common, 2 fast songs, then a ballad. And I think this is produced by the guy who did a lot of Cliff stuff, Alan Tarney. So it's quite middle of the road. I never really liked it at the time, but I've looked back on it with a kind of more mature appreciation of it. You can't knock Morton's voice, one of the great singers of the 80s. But as a song, I'd just give me "Sun Always Shines on TV" or "Take on Me", to be honest. Maybe "Manhattan Skyline", but we'll come on to that one soon. 24, Holding Back the Years, Simply Red. I've talked about him before. I gave him a free pass on Money's Too Tight to Mention because it's a good song. Holding Back the Years, dreary, white soul really, just meh. 25, A Kind of Magic. Now, this was weird because on the vinyl, they called this a mystery bonus track, and it wasn't there on the sleeve notes, but it was a hidden track on side 3. I don't know why they did that. Weird, because it was a big hit, and they sort of told you it was on there as a bonus track, so it wasn't a surprise. Anyway, what can you say? It was Queen back, and I think this is, again, just at the very beginning where Freddie might have been falling ill, but it's one of their last big classic songs, and yep, can't really knock it. 26, another big song, another big wedding disco one, Billy Ocean, "When the Going Gets Tough, the Tough Get Going." That really encapsulates the beginning of 1986 for me. There was a really good video with Danny DeVito in it, I think. And it's kind of modern Motown again, really, but it's Billy Ocean's best song, I think, was "Loverboy." He had some big hits through the 80s, and that was one of the biggest. 27, Set Me Free, Jackie Graham again, who's always on these albums. And this is just another forgettable Jackie Graham song. Perfectly professional, but really nothing special about it. Now, here's another good one. I Can't Wait, New Shoes. Why is it so good? Is it still popular? I think it is. I think people really like this song. There's something very ahead of its time about this song. There really is. This song's almost about 20 years ahead of its time. And in terms of paradigms, this song really is... I think I Can't Wait is actually more 21st century than 1980s. I don't think of it as an 80s song. Maybe it's just me. The beat, the sounds, the drum sounds... And I think particularly that people still do stuff like that. That sounds almost like trap, cutting up the vocal like that. So I Can't Wait, and it was the only song they ever had that was a hit. I don't know anything about them as a band. It just sonically, it's the elements of that song are really, really way beyond the 80s, and yet it kind of fitted right in with the Now album, and it was a big hit. So another standout track. Another one here. Real Roxanne with Hitman, Howie T and Bang Zoom, Let's Go Go. A bit of a beat of this was used by Dizzy Rascal. And let's stick it on. It's hip hop now. It's with hip hop's really had a good year in 1986, and this is still at the point where, yeah, we just heard that one. Here we go. It's still very jokey. I mean, we're not talking gangster rap or anything, even though things like The Message have kind of begun to open up that paradigm. This is still very much on the kind of jokes side of hip hop. Like it's got Bugs Bunny impressions and stuff. But I think it might be the first track with a pure loop for a rhythm on a Now album, sonically. I'm trying to think if there's any before. Drum machines, real drums. Is this the first song that's loop-based on any Now album? There's a good question. So, again, paradigm changing, certainly in terms of where hip-hop meets pop. The kind of rapping itself, well, it's not for me to diss Real Roxanne. I don't know what she did to me. She'd pang, zoom, pow me. You can see it's sort of a bit slow, maybe, compared to modern rhyming. But I'm not really complaining. It's more about the progress of hip-hop. We've got Howie T there doing some background. So, yeah, this is groundbreaking, and it's nice again. After Now 6, it's nice that Now 7's really starting to get back with it again. Number 30, Lovebug Starsky and Amityville. Another jokey hip-hop one, and it's interesting how hip-hop was using, or the sort of stuff that was crossing over to a Now album was the more jokey side of hip-hop. Amityville features mainly horror stuff, but then he starts going off and doing a Captain Kirk from Star Trek. Let's put it in. I never really liked the film Amityville, not the 79 one. The remake was actually better. It was one of those films that I thought would be scarier than it was. We're back to beatboxes here instead of beat loops. You know, these aren't jokes songs really, but it's joke songs within the paradigm of hip hop, and I think that's quite interesting. That it was a way of kind of introducing it in a sort of non-threatening way. Amityville. And that's followed up by another really, really good, strong song, Headlines by Midnight Star. Now, this one's less jokes. It's still a bit kind of gimmicky in a way. But as someone who did a journalism degree and is really interested in journalism, and I think with social media and what's going on in the world, you know, this song's really on the ball. This is another one that's really, really, I think, way ahead of its time. You've got a proto soul to soul kind of beat there. You've got scratching in the mix now. Yeah, this is really, really good song. Really like this. It's not really hip hop or rap. It's still funk, but it's got kind of rap breakdown in it. Bit cameo, but it's funkier and it's a bit more underground. I think this is like an underground one that made it big rather than one that was a pop copy of an underground thing. This is followed by You and Me Tonight by Aura, more soul. Good song. Nothing really to say about it. It's a kind of male-female duet. He's just pestering her, and she's actually telling him to fuck off. And it's a good battle of the sexes song. It's a good song, really. It's a good song about relationships. It's kind of interesting. And then that's followed by that final drippy end of the side ballad, Patti LaBelle and Michael McDonald, On My Own. It's nice enough. You don't really hear it very often, but it's nothing really too bad about it, just a bit dull. So Now 7, I think, was really, really noticeably stronger than Now 6. Much better. And we're definitely into the second half of the 80s now, and it, you know, the difference between this and Now 5, or even Now 4, is kind of immense. Soul and R&B and hip hop now are really bedding their feet into the table of pop. There's still some of the old guard there, like, you know, you've still got kind of Tina Turner. You've got people who kind of reinvented themselves, like Stan Ridgway, Peter Gabriel. You've got the Pet Shop Boys coming in, but then you've got Burgh. So that's probably the stinker culturally on the album. The songs that have stood the test of time, I think Sledgehammer, definitely. I would say Opportunities, Pet Shop Boys. Camouflage in a kind of kitsch way. Absolute Beginners, because it's Bowie and everything, Bowie. Invisible Touch by Genesis, I think even if people don't like them or feel, that's seen as a pretty good song. Happy Hour by the House Martins, I think it's an incredibly popular song still. Where do we go? I like Amazil, Too Good to Be Forgotten, but I don't think many other people remember it. Venus, I don't really like that much. It's okay, but I think a lot of people do. I kind of make it by Queen because it's Queen. When the Going Gets Tough by Billy Ocean's good 80s classic, I think. I Can't Wait by New Shoes, Real Roxanne, and this Headlines by Midnight Star. I think those three are real forward-thinking dance songs. Amityville, kind of, but it's a joke, but it's still good. So yeah, there we go. Now 7, and I'll be back next time with Now 8. If I'm here next time, as indeed you are, and I'm sure we'll be alright. Just stay safe, stay calm, look after each other, and enjoy the music if you've got nothing better to do. See you later, bye.